Hey, I'm Dawn Kennedy. I'm known as the Entre Money Coach or the Entrepreneur's Money Coach. I want to warmly welcome you to First Steps to Profit because it's not just what you make in business, it's also what you keep. And that profit is the money that you keep above and beyond everything. That's the money that we use to grow into our vision. That's the money we use to impact the world. So I want to welcome you. You are going to love this course. I'm going to change your perspectives on your business money in the next 45 minutes or so. But I do want to let you know that you own this course now. If you need to pause the video at any time, please do. If you need to revisit this video at any time, you can. Grab your favorite beverage or a cup of coffee, grab a pen and paper to take notes, make sure you download your workbook, and we're going to dive right in and get started. I want to let you know that I'm so passionate about this subject because I love to see entrepreneurs succeed with their businesses, and I love to see small businesses win with their money. So let's dive right in. I'm going to share my screen here because I am a PowerPoint girl. It's from working for the Army for a number of years, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And I'm going to get started. I'm going to hide my video panel so that we are not distracted in any way. And again, I want to remind you, you're here because we're going to talk about your first steps to profit. We're not going to worry about your income. I want to teach you how to figure out what gets left over and what you can do with that additional money. So the first thing I want to let you know is what we're going to do here. We're going to make money management so simple and enjoyable. You are going to create a process for you that you are going to love and you are going to use. We're going to get organized, we're going to learn our breakthrough number, and we're going to get into sinking funds. I'm going to teach you a little bit about that. And you're going to get to master your first steps. Again, you can pause this video at any time. You don't have to sit through the whole thing. I figure it's going to take us about 45 minutes. And, you know, it's an action taker's course, so you can stop, take action, and revisit anytime you need to. I love to start with a quote, and this one is just one of my favorites because money, like emotions, is something you must control to keep your life on the right track. I am just not somebody who puts things on auto pay and allows them to flow in and out without intention. Money is something you need to control, and when you are in business, you must know what comes in and you must control what goes out. That is the only way to be wildly successful and to have a plan for that money as well. So who am I teaching you this? I'm Dawn Kennedy. I am an attorney and also a financial coach. I'm a serial entrepreneur who has started several businesses and grown them to 6 figures. I also have a long background as a program manager and a strategic planner, first for the United States Army, and then for different companies across industries. I am the founder of the Breakthrough Number Approach. I'm going to tell you how I came up with all of this. So my husband and I started a company in 2011 called Unique Consulting, and we very quickly grew to 6 figures, and we were very successful doing what we did. We worked primarily by referral, and we were in a high-tech industry with drones actually back then. And guess what? We made a lot of money mistakes. We made a lot of money mistakes. We took all the courses from the SBA. We had a mentor who looked at our business plan. We thought we were doing everything right, but we didn't understand how to manage the cash flow. We didn't have a fund that we put extra money aside for lean months. We didn't know what to do when people were paying us late. We were using the credit cards in a way that wasn't very helpful for our business. But, you know, we didn't know what we didn't know, and we sure didn't know that we were making these mistakes. Well, what happened is in 2013 on November 1st, my husband had a near fatal accident. He fell off a ladder 18 feet onto concrete and he almost died. And while he was going through his 3 years of rehabilitation, because by the grace of God, he did survive, our business did not. We had to close. We could no longer do the consulting work. We turned back in all of our contracts, and we went from making over $200,000 a year to making nothing. And when I looked up from that, we realized we had $76,000 in debt from the business. Some of it was personal, but we also had a $27,003 bill due to the IRS for non-payment of self-employment taxes that year because we hadn't been paying them quarterly and we hadn't set up our accounts properly. So the next thing you know, we're looking at $76,000 in debt, and we had to figure out what to do. Well, we did plow through it and we did get it done, and in 39 months we paid it all back, but it wasn't without a cost. I was working, 2 side hustles and a full-time job. My husband was going through rehab to the best of his ability, and now he walks and does really well. He even has his license back and can drive. But what we did end up doing was realizing all of the mistakes that we made are mistakes that are not things that are just intuitive that we should have just known. These are things that should have been taught. When I created the breakthrough number approach, I started working with other entrepreneurs and working as a financial coach, helping to secure these family businesses and making sure that these families could take paychecks home. And had I been running our business the way that I run my businesses now, and I teach other business owners, when my husband had his accident, I would have had 3 months, 1 full quarter, to take paychecks home and to wind things down. And you know, that is what makes me so passionate about what I do. Everything that I do and everything that I give you is not just book learning here, it's actual experience. I have been there, and I'm going to give you everything that I can and pour into you so that you can make good decisions, so that if something were to happen, not that I think it will, you are going to be well protected. I want to remind you to download your workbook. So you have 2 lessons in this course. One of them is the workbook here, First Steps to Profit, Not Just Income book. And then of course the other one will be your 90-day undated planner. There's going to be a separate video for that one. So you just need this workbook right now for this part of the course. So step 1, we need to get organized. Before we can do anything else, we must get organized. What do we even owe? You know, I ask people sometimes, you know, what do we owe? What do we need to do? And sometimes I don't get good answers. Well, the number one thing is to make sure that your finances are separate. So the business owes what the business owes, and you owe what you owe, and your business has its own financial identity. You need a business bank account, you need business checks, you need a business debit card. You have an operating account in your business. You may or may not have a separate account now. I have a holding account as well for my business where I park money until I need it, and I'll get into that later. I have checks on my business accounts. I want to write myself a paycheck from my business operating account on regular paydays, and that also helps keep cash into my business. And then that also, with these regular paydays, helps to protect my personal finances because I can plan for getting that paycheck in. As if I were employed by someone else, I'm actually employed by my own business, but this allows me to go, oh yes, I get paid every other Thursday, or I get paid every other Friday, and it makes it so that I can plan for my personal bills as well. So critically important to separate those finances. One mistake that people do make sometimes is paying personal expenses out of those business accounts. We want to keep that bright line separation right from the beginning. Next thing is I want you to gather your expenses. A way to get really organized is to, again, know everything that you owe. If you need to pause after this slide, go ahead and pause. And what do you owe? Do you have a brick and mortar business? Do you have rent and utilities? Or do you owe, you know, your internet and your phone? What do you owe in your business? Do you have other monthly expenses? If so, you should have one single central location that has all of this information. Now, there's a template in your book here. There's a similar template inside your planner as well, so that you can get and stay organized. You're going to have the name of the company, what the purpose for that bill is. You should have your account number at your fingertips. How many times have we lost an account number because we no longer have the bill in front of us? I know I have done that on several occasions. Now I keep my account numbers because if I ever have to call, I have it right at my fingertips in one document. Then I talk about you know, online login information. Yes, you should protect this. I have one on my computer, and then I also have one printed out and put away in case my computer goes down. But I have everything I need to be able to call that company. I can mail them a check if I need to. I can mail correspondence to that company, and I have my account number available to me at all times. This is one way to make sure that not only are you organized, but as you grow, as you add staff and team, you may have somebody who you're going to have pay your bills. Isn't it great to be able to hand over this file and say, here is everything that we need to go ahead and make sure we're keeping our business running financially by being able to pay all our expenses. Step 2 is to learn your unique breakthrough number. Now, if you need to go back and pause right here and go ahead and get organized, if you don't have a business bank account, you know, stop right here and let's take action on those steps. The places to get a business bank account, I usually recommend a small regional bank, or you can use something like an online bank like Voya or Ally, but make sure you have that bright line separation and that you are organized. And once you have those steps in place, let's jump on to step 2. we're going to talk about your unique breakthrough number. Now, what is a breakthrough number? A breakthrough number is your minimum amount that you need each month to keep the doors open. This is not everything that you owe necessarily. For some businesses it is, for other businesses it isn't. But what it is this is the minimum amount that makes sure that not only your doors open, but you are able to continue making money. And that is because we're going to protect the four walls of your business. If you can imagine your business being like a little box, you're going to protect and pay what's inside the box before you worry about what's outside. Not unlike if you were going to protect the inside of your home. So we're going to protect by talking about your access to buyers, like your rent and utilities, your critical operating expenses, the things that allow you to stay in business, the things that you sell, and then also how you pay yourself and you pay your other expenses, like your taxes. When you have consistently hit this particular number every single month, you then have a breakthrough to profit. And the money above and beyond these four walls is money that you can use for other things: debt, growth, expansion, a larger paycheck for you, all those things, because you have already protected the things that you need to stay open, to make money, and to show up every day and serve. So here's wall number one. Again, if you imagine that box. Now, these walls, this rent and utilities or cell phone and internet, this is how you get to your clients. If you don't pay these expenses first, your clients can't come in. If you have the most beautiful inventory on the planet, but you have a landlord that locks your doors for non-payment of rent, nobody can come in and buy your beautiful clothes. Again, if you're in e-commerce and you don't pay your internet first, how can people buy from you? How can they be in business with you? So it's very important to prioritize wall one, because that is going to be how people access you and give you money. Wall two are your critical operating expenses. These are critical, meaning you can't operate without them. You have to identify these, and they're prioritized right after your wall one expenses. And this is the beautiful thing. You decide what's critical to your personal business. If you can live without a service or you can live without a product, you can decide whether or not you should be paying for that right now, especially if you are in maybe a little bit of a change in your business, an expansion, or if you're in a pivot, or if you haven't revisited this in a while. I find sometimes that when people go back and revisit these critical operating expenses, and here's some things to think about, they realize that maybe they've been paying for something they don't need anymore because of where their business is today. So they found money while doing this exercise. Sometimes they've had a list of things they want to include in their business and they haven't done it yet. And as they run through this exercise, they realize this really is very important to me, and they add it on. So this is completely up to you. But here are some things to consider. So payment processing, do you have software that you need? So if you're a graphic designer, do you need to pay for Adobe Suite? If you are a private investigator, should you be paying for LexisNexis database? Do you need gas because you deliver something? Or do you, set up shop at like a flea market every month? And do you sell at a flea market? Do we have to deal with your table rental and your gas to get back and forth there? Right? So what are the services and products that you cannot do without? And again, this is completely your decision. So if you'd like to pause right now and think about it, write them down, write the cost down, that'll be your second wall. And the way to figure out whether or not this is critical is to think about whether you were doing business without this thing before. Like, for example, did you do something manually and then you added some service to it? So, for example, I see this sometimes with online signing software, e-signing, for people who have contracts that go back and forth. It does save time over printing and signing and scanning and going back. But in a pinch, would you be able to do that? You can decide then, again, whether or not that is something you'd be willing to do, or if you do deem this critical and need to add this into this second wall. Really, if the sun exploded, could you get by without it and stay in business? Because we want to be as lean as we can in this four walls process. This is everything I owe. This is what do I need to keep the doors open and keep myself making money. That's the breakthrough number. This breakthrough number is not the everything number. This is the this is the critical thing I need to be able to get through maybe a tough time in business and be able to stay making money. All right. Wall 3, inventory and product. Now, inventory and product sometimes takes a little while to figure out because you need what we call a right amount or a right spend. If you are in business that sells or creates products, then you're either going to need raw materials, or you're going to maybe need some products to be able to do a service. And I give you some examples here, like lash extensions. You must have them on site. A reseller has to have things to sell. If you're a custom t-shirt designer, you have to have those raw materials. And the key here is to know that when money is really tight, how much do you need to have aside to be able to purchase that inventory to keep the doors open? And I'll give you an example. I did work with a t-shirt designer. She actually owned a memory shop, and she did t-shirts and she did memory quilts and a bunch of other things. And we realized very quickly that she was spending an average of $1,500 a month on raw materials. But the fact is she had a lot of orders, and that's why she was spending so much in raw materials. When we really sat down and looked at her profits, when we sat down and looked at what she was spending, we realized that she could spend $650 a month in raw materials and still generate enough money to keep the doors open and to cover her rent and to cover her utilities. So it might take you a little bit to figure out what that right spend looks like, but that's okay. Just understand that this number here needs to be reasonable for when money gets a little bit tight. The last thing we want to do is have too much stock laying around and it's sitting on a shelf that ties up your money that could be used for something else in your business. So inventory and product right spend. So what do I look at to figure out, well, what is my right spend? I always look at the things that have the greatest profit margin. So if you buy low and you sell at a better profit margin, you know, what are your items that you can sell and make the most money back fastest? And then what do you have with the best volume? So maybe this is something that doesn't have the same profit margin, but you sell so many of them, you really should keep them around. And then the last one is, you know, what is your lead time to receive certain items? If it takes a long time to get certain things into your store, you might want to go ahead and keep some of that around, especially if it's something that you sell on a regular basis. Maybe it's not your highest volume seller, but you sell them regularly enough that if you don't have them on hand, you will lose sales. So the goal is to keep that right amount of inventory that is going to sell in a tight month. You know, this has, again, kind of that feeling of protection of your business. Remembering my personal story, you know, you want to make sure that you are thinking ahead about what you can do to take care of your business and keep those doors open. So if you do right now have excess inventory, if you are sitting here and you're listening to me right now and you're like, my gosh, I'm looking around and Dawn, I have all this stuff here that I did spend too much money on inventory, or I did spend too much money creating this thing. What should I do about it? I'm going to tell you that right now inventory is that money tied up and it's unavailable for other things, and we need to move that excess inventory. A couple of things to do would be to bundle your products, a buy one, get one half off, or maybe buy two, get one free. Ways to bundle things, or you can do a swimsuit and a cover-up, for example. If you buy the suit, you get the cover-up 50% off. Bundle things that are like together, bundle a number of items together, lots of things that you can do to bundle your products. Another one is maybe you can resell to another wholesaler or retailer. I've had people go ahead and start getting into consignments and resales so that their inventory moves from their location to get into the eyes of other people. Other people are seeing it. I have somebody who's a jewelry designer who started selling in certain spas. So that actually became another wholesaler, or they can do consignment that way. Sorry about that. The other thing is to offer some kind of discount when things are bought with more than one item. So this could be something where if they buy one, get one free. The other thing is to offer a discount when they buy multiple items. So if you buy 3 of the same thing, we're going to give you free shipping. So you can offer a discount for when you do more than one thing. And then the other thing is, like, maybe you just have a couple of things left in a certain size or a certain color. Maybe you have something that you did that's limited today. Have some kind of flash sale on that and get that moved out so you're getting that cash into your business. The whole point of moving that excess inventory is to get that cash back into your business so that you can use it. All right, wall 4. Now this wall is the one that people kind of feel like I'm talking and it's nails on a chalkboard, but I want you to know you as the entrepreneur get paid before debt. And wall 4 protects you. You need to be able to eat. You need to be able to pay your hot water bill. You are part of your business. And the power of the breakthrough number is you are protecting yourself as well. You are the engine that makes your business go. You are in business to make impact. And you have got to prioritize yourself and write yourself a business check for a reasonable salary. I hear people tell me all the time, I can't take a paycheck. I don't make enough. But then when we dig down and look in their finances, it's like, well, what is this? Well, I paid my car insurance. Okay, you paid it from the business is still paying your bills. It's just a different perspective and way to look at that. I don't want you to take all of your net profit for your personal bills. I want you to prioritize making yourself a paycheck. And here's the only other rule that I have is if you have employees working for you, they have to get paid before you do. All right, we've all heard horror stories of paychecks bouncing, and I don't ever want that to be you. Even if you have a tough time, and even if you have to cut hours, or if things get tight and you lay people off, your employees will always be grateful, and they will always be loyal to you if their paychecks were always on time and in full. So I want you to know you're going to pay your payroll expenses and your taxes, and you're going to prioritize paying yourself. If this is the first time anyone has sat down and said, you are important, bringing your ideas to the world, I want you to know you are important. And you need this financial reward. You need this tangible reminder that what you're doing is great. So I want you to know that I want you to not panic about, oh my gosh, Dawn, I can't take as much as I need to take right now in order to cover all my personal bills. That's fine. I want you to know there's a few ways to think about a reasonable salary. And then there's some other things that you can do too to start to get in the habit. There are 2 general ways that I have somebody figure out their benchmark, okay? One is to figure out what your desired monthly income is right now and to get a percentage of that. So 30 or 40% of what you would love to make. And I have an example on here. So if you want to make $4,000 a month, 40% of that is $1,600. You would get $800 every 2 weeks plus your taxes. So you would write yourself a check probably for about $1,100. 300 of that would go into your tax account, and then 800 of that would be net to you. Or you can figure out what your personal 4 walls are. So what are you spending right now in food, utilities, mortgage or rent, and transportation? Can you cover your 4 walls with your reasonable salary, with your desired monthly income right now? If you can do that, then again, you're going to cover your personal bills. So these are just 2 ways to figure out what that number might look like for you. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So this isn't gospel. You can figure it out what works right for you. But these are a couple of different ways to look at it and go at it so that you have a number. Now you will need to withhold 25 to 30% of your gross income for taxes in the US. And in the UK and Europe, you also have to pay your social insurance. And then if you have a company, you're limited. One thing you need to understand in the United States is FICA and Medicare, typically half of that is paid by an employee and half of that's paid by the employer. So if you are self-employed or if you're paying yourself, you have to withhold really 100% of what that is. And this slide actually is probably a little off because it's about 15% now. When you are an employer, you're going to pay out of pocket, that half for your employees. So it's not just what they make an hour, you also have these other expenses that are withholding expenses. So you're going to pay out of pocket that percentage of FICA and Social Security. You're also going to pay, something for possibly unemployment insurance in the state. So as you're going through these worksheets, remember that your withholding might be a little higher than you expected if you are just thinking, well, that's what I make an hour. You want to make sure that we're covering all of that. If you need to know how much you need to pay, go ahead and talk to an accountant, a business accountant, and get into your tax holding account to make sure that we're being compliant. And again, I told you that employees get paid before you do. There are those additional costs to employees, and you want to make sure all of those costs are considered before you add employees to your business payroll. So your employees aren't just, let's say, $10 an hour. You know, they may be closer to like $13.50 by the time we take everything out of pocket that we owe as well. So make sure that you're going ahead and looking at that real number before we make some business decisions. Now, I'm missing maybe a slide here, but if you go ahead and add those walls together, that's going to give you your breakthrough number every month. And this slide here talks about if you don't hit that number. I want you to have a backup plan. I get this question all the time, what if I don't hit this breakthrough number? Well, the fact is sometimes businesses don't hit the breakthrough number. And if you don't, you need to have a backup plan, a side hustle, a part-time job. Maybe you have some emergency funds in reserve. I want you to then go ahead and start to look at your business itself. And, you know, do you have your approach to sales? Are you easy to do business with? Your processors, your payments, how are you able to do that? Is your marketing on point? Are you able to explain how you solve the problem in the marketplace? Here's another one. How long have you been in business? Are you too new to have given yourself enough time to build up to that number? That number, you know, again, talks through, you know, your paycheck as well. So if you have not been in business long enough and you feel like you're not able to hit that, you know, give yourself some more time. And then finally, if you're not hitting your breakthrough number, if your sales pages are great, if you've been in marketing for a while, if you've done everything that you can, if you've gotten some advice and you're following it, maybe you should ask your customers, you know, really about what they want and how you can better serve them. But when you do hit it consistently, and I'm going to say that most businesses do get to this point, I want you to celebrate, because at that point, you really are self-sufficient as a business. You are able every month to keep the doors open, and you are able to continue making money. So at that point, we're going to identify your emergency fund, we're going to look at your C fund, and we're going to talk about your profit parking lots. So this B number is really that first goal, and that includes your paycheck. Once you hit that number and you're able to pay yourself, that is phenomenal. You are self-sufficient, and guess what? When you pay yourself, you do show up differently. It does feel very different when you are able to pay your personal bills from your business, that your business is actually taking care of you as the entrepreneur. There's just an amazing feeling that goes with that. So if you are already there, congratulations. If you're not, I want that breakthrough number to be your very first goal. That's what we need to get you to. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to set up kind of that protection around those numbers. Again, let me stop here and say, if you haven't finished figuring out your breakthrough number, you know, go ahead and pause the video and let's do that. The other thing is, if let's say you're just not comfortable paying yourself a paycheck, and I do kind of get on my soapbox about that, about taking care of the entrepreneur, but I do have entrepreneurs who say, I'm not ready. I don't want to take the money out of my account and those things, and I respect that also. If that's the case, what about paying yourself something nominal, $10 or $25 every 2 weeks? What if you were just to give yourself a paycheck that shows I've showed up, I'm doing the work, things are great, I'm making the money, and I can give myself this tangible reward? Just something to think about as you work through your numbers. But that breakthrough number, that is your ground truth number. That tells you exactly what you need to be making and how you need to be thinking about pricing, about offers, about what you need to do to get to that number each and every month. That's goal one. All right, so once you have your breakthrough number and you've got that number in front of you, you can see, first of all, how close you are to profit. If you're not hitting it every month, but you're within just a couple $100, woohoo, look at how close you are. If you're hitting it every month, wow. If you're far from it and one of those things needs to be considered, think about getting some help. Think about what you need to do to get there. I mean, this is ground truth. This is no kidding. This is the reality of your business. And I'm really glad to give that to you. This is your first step to profit. You must know your numbers. So now let's look at step 3. This is setting up your sinking fund. So your sinking fund, I like to also call it a cyclical fund because sinking fund just sounds odd, and it actually has another definition in business finance. But what the cyclical fund does is it protects your operating account. Instead of making one large payment on an annual thing, whether it's a membership or renewing your license, maybe you're renewing your limited or your insurance, we're going to make 12 small monthly payments every year. And basically what's going to happen is when that expense is due and it rolls around on the calendar, you have the money. And we don't have to worry about making that money or generating that money in the month that it's due. This is how it protects your operating account. So as you add expenses, organizational memberships is one, maybe you add some new services, maybe you need to renew things. You know, your cyclical fund, you can put that into that holding account. I told you in the beginning that I do have one. Again, use a fee-free checking account. And here's how this works. Let's say that you owe $1,200 a year in annual expenses. Is it easier to come up with $100 a month and deposit it away, or $1,200 a month in 1 month to pay for that, or $500 in a month, or $600 in a month? I've always found that it's much easier to come up with that little bit and make those smaller payments. And I have a little bonus here. It's in your book also, setting up your emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund is the last piece of this protection for your operating account. You're going to want to probably goal first your 3 months of reserve, and that's 3 times your B number. Now, remember, that's not everything. There's space in your workbook to write down your other expenses. So maybe you have some debt, maybe you have some marketing expenses, maybe you have some other expenses and things that are not within your B number, and that's okay. Remember, that breakthrough number is just that bare minimum to keep your doors open. That is what you want to have in reserve. This gets right to the heart of my story, that if we would have put away 3 months of that reserve number, that breakthrough number in our own account, I would have been able to draw a paycheck for 3 months. And that's why I find it so important. So the 3-month number, if you multiply that breakthrough number that you have by 3 months, you might have a little minor heart attack because it's like, oh my gosh, that's a huge number. Well, guess what? I'm going to teach you how to do it. I'm going to give you some hints and tricks to filling it. It doesn't have to be a scary number. A couple of things that you need to know is it has to be separate. I want you to keep that money liquid so you can get to it in an emergency. The other thing is it's only for emergencies, so you can write down what that means. You can cover unexpected expenses, for example, that keep you open. You can cover your breakthrough number in a shortfall. But the one thing this emergency fund is not for is investing into growth. That's what we're going to use profit for. I keep this only in a checking account. Some people use a money market account. There's nothing wrong with that. And I always keep checks on that account so that I can write one in an emergency. The cool thing about an emergency fund is you just have to fill it up once. Once it's full, and the money just sits there unless you need it. So here's some ways, though, to save your emergency fund. So that big number is jumping out at you. You're like, oh my gosh. For some of you, that number could be $10,000. You're like, my gosh, Donna, I'm making this much every single month. How do you want me to get to 10,000? Well, let's look at it a few ways. One is you can plan to put that money away by making it a line item in your monthly spending plan. You're just going to go ahead and say, okay, this month and every month I'm going to put $75 a month away. That doesn't sound like very much, but it is, and it's going to add up if you are very determined to go ahead and put that into your emergency fund. So basically what that would look like is you make your breakthrough number, you deposit your cyclical fund, and then you put your little bit into your emergency fund. Then you are completely and utterly covered. Now the thing is you don't have to, if you have a great month and you have lots and lots of extra money that's come in, again, starting from that breakthrough number and using that small seed fund deposit, you can add to your emergency fund by throwing extra profits in there. You can even set a benchmark for yourself and say, every month for the next 6 months, I'm going to put 20% of anything I make over my, numbers into an emergency fund. That's what I'm going to do. And then the other 80% that you make over would be available for other things like debt or whatever it is, maybe growth, maybe you're investing in some new marketing strategy, whatever it is. And then the last one is, let's say you have a great month over month, You don't have to put away 20% of your extra profit. Let's say you just take a B number for 3 months, every month, and you stash it. Let's say that your breakthrough number is $3,000, and every month you say, I'm going to take $3,000 off of my extra, and I'm going to stick it away. So I'm going to stash that B number, and that's it. Once you get that done, it's full, and you never have to worry about it again. So there's several ways to do this. It doesn't have to be a scary prospect, but it will protect your business, and it will protect your operating account. Finally, here's my last thing for you. This is part of being in your first steps to profit, is you have to track all your money. If you don't give your money a name and track it, that money runs off and spends itself. So guess what? Just like your breakthrough number, just like your emergency fund, just like your cyclical fund, you get to decide how you want to track this. You get to decide what's personal for you. And now that you have this new perspective on your money based on this breakthrough number and how easy it is to put this money aside, you can go ahead and take the time that you need to sit down and think through, do I want to use a notebook? Do I want to use the templates that are in your tracker? Remember, you get the planner with this. So you can use the calendar, you can use the weekly trackers, you can open a spreadsheet on your computer if you want to. You don't have to. I know a lot of people who don't like them, and that's perfectly fine. But guess what? You get to resonate with whichever one you have. In fact, I know someone who has an app. They use a budgeting app on their phone, and it's linked to their bank account, and they love it. Perfectly fine. However you want to do it is fine for you. I want you to know that the important thing is to consistently track your money that comes in and out. And again, you can use the planner for that. And you will get another planner lesson, of course, within this course. Now, you don't have to worry about finding it the right way the first time either. You can try a couple of different things until you figure out what works. The end goal is to make it consistent. Sometimes that takes 3 or 4 months of getting into the habit of that. So give yourself some grace. Know that you're making tremendous progress, and you are in the first steps to profit here by doing these few things. And I want to invite you, if you are ready to take the next step and change the rest of your financial life, if you're ready to give yourself a raise, if you understand your income, your bottom line, your profit margins are all up to you, and you want me to help you get to the next level of a personalized system and to make more money, if you need that strategy for growth, jump on my calendar for a 30-minute support call, and let's see how I can support you. So from the first steps to profit here, let me see if I can help you, and I can answer any questions you have as well. So that is the link to get on my calendar for free. And this is the email to email me any questions. It's also in your member vault. So you just hit this assist@EntreMoneyCoach.com, and I will answer any questions you have. Thank you so much for joining me in this first steps to profit. I really hope that I was able to change your perspective, and I was able to show you a simple way to look at your business money and give you so much encouragement about how you can take control no matter where you are in your business and be in a great place to start moving towards profit, not just income. Take care, and thanks so much for joining me on this course.